So now we're going to add our buttons to our scroll view. So the first thing that we can do is delete this image that we were using for our demo content, and we're going to select our content game object, right click, and choose UI button. Now our content area was still huge for the image, so let's scale that back in roughly there, and we'll frame selected. And so we can see we've got our button in the middle. Now, of course, we could just manually place buttons in our content area, right? That would actually work. It would be really funny if somebody made a UI that actually looked like this. But we want something a little more organized. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use what's called a vertical layout group. So if we, where did my button go? It disappeared. Let's delete that one too. If we, let's just add it back in. Something went wrong there. Oh, it's up there. What? What are you doing? Oh, the content, Scott. This is something I've seen before, actually, that the content area kind of jumps around. I don't totally know why. I don't know if it's a bug or not. But anyway, if that happens to you, just make sure that your content is still aligned the way you want it with the viewport. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to add a component to the content, which is it's going to be under Layout, Vertical Layout Group. And you notice when I do that, suddenly my button gets huge. It stretches to fit the entire view. Now, what the vertical layout group is trying to do is efficiently manage the space of any children rect transforms, right? So now if I manually duplicated lots of copies of my button, you can see that it'll just make them smaller and smaller and smaller to fit them into this area. But we're not going to get scrolling because it's just, we can still drag, right? But it won't scroll off screen because it's stretching and squishing them to fit in the content area. And that's not actually the behavior that we want. So what we're going to do is we're going to add to our button a component called a layout element. So this is under layout, layout element. And in the layout element, we can specify a preferred height in pixels. And we're going to set this to 100. And now on the content game object in our vertical layout group, we can tell it to not force its child objects to expand to fit the height. So now we can see we have our button. It's more of a normal aspect. And the other thing that we're going to add to this to the content object is a content size fitter. And in this case, we're going to specify for the vertical fit here, we always want to use the minimum size. And something went wrong there. Oh, did I use the wrong? Nope, I didn't. That's the vertical button layout element prefer. Oh, sorry. I used the preferred, not the derp. I wanted to use the minimum height. There we go. Okay. So we want to, on our layout element, we want to be using a minimum height of 100 pixels. And we have a content size fitter that uses the minimum size. And we're going to child force expand the width in the vertical layout group to fit it to the width of the panel, but not the height. And if we just maximize for a sec so we can see it, this is what it looks like. We've got this button that's nicely aligned and that fits the horizontal space while still maintaining its height of 100 pixels. And if we duplicate lots of these, we can see now that we get our scrolling behavior, right? So just to recap those steps, we have, I'll just delete all these extras. We have a vertical layout group added to the content, a content size fitter added to the content object, we're using the vertical fit minimum size property on the content size fitter. The vertical layout group is child force expand is true for width but false for height. And then on the button child object, we're using the minimum height that's set to true, and we're setting the value there to 100 pixels. Okay, let's take a look at the chat, see how everybody's doing, and then we'll continue.